I'm Joshua Kemble, and in the next 10 minutes I'm going to try to explain my process and thinking as well as tools that I use to create a comic book page. Now, while I'd like to show you a real-time video in under 10 minutes of me making a comic book page, I'm just not that quick of an artist. So instead, I'm going to show you a time-lapse of me working on page 53 from my graphic novel Quarterly Stories. What I'm going to be showing you right now is about 2 weeks worth of work on my comic book page, just really sped up. So first I start with a script, which is basically like an entire script of, in this case, this is the chapter of Quarterly Stories and page 53, and blocking out which parts that I need to basically thumbnail out. Then I go to, in a sketchbook, doing these little sketches where I'm working out the sequences. When I'm thinking about the sequences, I'm looking at the content, especially emotional content, of the story that I'm trying to tell, and then I'm trying to reflect that content to the viewer. So in this case, I made a kind of map. I decided that I wanted small repeated motions where basically the panel size isn't differing or changing at all, and by doing that, I'm hoping to make the reader feel somewhat trapped, just like the character in this sequence. I also decided that in the foreground there would be subtle changes, whereas in the background you're going to have these dramatic, hopefully silhouetted poses. From this stage, I usually go from the thumbnail to taking photo reference and then working on layout. These are the tools that I use to work on layout. One of my favorite things to do for panel borders as well as parallel lines is use this Mapmaker's rolling ruler, which is great. It has a slight arch to it if you're using it in the correct manner, so that basically when you lift it, it doesn't smudge the inks. I also use microns, and my favorite micron weights tend to be a 0.1, a 0.5, a 0.05, a 0.8, and a 0.3. I like these pens because I usually have multiples of them, as you can see, and if one goes dry, I can toss it out, and then I can throw it away and just grab another and use it and still have a fresh tip. I also use a lot of circle templates. This one in particular I find to be really advantageous for making nice smooth circular motions, and that's the tools that I use to get to that initial type and panel border stage. So now that I have the panel borders and the type worked out, I get to the fun part, which is drawing. And what I use for drawing is basically a good old trusty mechanical pencil, and then I also use an eraser. That's pretty much it. You can use a Staedtler eraser. They tend to have less smudging when you erase. So then it's on to my favorite part, which is basically using those microns that I talked about to basically do all the outlines and the contours on my drawing. And then I like to go in with a brush pen. My favorite brush pen in the world is this Pentel Pocket brush pen. It's probably one of the best brush pens that I've come across for getting a nice thick and thin. It has a pretty decent little point on it, a pretty fine tip, so you can go from a really thin line to a really thick line, and it usually works really effectively. I do all of my hatching and shading with that. I also like to use the 300 series of Strathmore bristle board. Usually I try to use the smooth surface. I used to use vellum, but I find that the smooth surface works a lot more effectively with ink for what I do. So basically at this point I ink every single panel on this page. In the case of this page it was 16 panels and then a 17th larger panel. Hopefully it conveys the emotional message that I was trying to convey. If you guys are curious to check out whether it was effective or not, just go to quarterlystories.com, check out page 53, and let me know what you think in the comments section. So anyhow, after that, what I do is I basically take that good old like Staedtler eraser, and after my ink's dried, I'll hit it with an eraser to get rid of the pencils. I then use this tool here, which is like this nice little brush. It's a draftsman's brush, I believe is what it's called, and basically I'll use that to brush off all of the eraser shavings, and from that point I scan my page onto my computer using my large format scanner. So from that point I basically piece together all of the photos in Photoshop, and then once I've tiled all of the sections of my 19 by 24 page, I then clean up the inks using the process that I get much more in depth in later in my vlog. And then after that, I basically just make a 72 DPI version, which is for the web, post it to my website, and hopefully it's a success. So working on this comic page was a bit of a challenge because it's a few more panels than I usually do. It's also a very repetitive page, and so sometimes as an artist you want to change up the background, but it's always in service of the story. But one thing to really keep in mind, at least for myself, is to occasionally change it up, like if you get bored with a page. So in the case of this, I also did a very quick flyer for my friend's 40th birthday party with a tin robot, so you'll see that snuck in as well. So that'll do it for vlog 113. This vlog is the vlog where I talk about Quarterly Stories, which is my graphic novel that I hand write, hand letter, hand ink, and then hand to you, hopefully someday in print. But until that day, it's available serialized online at quarterlystories.com. It's a very personal story to me that is about faith and mental illness, and this is the vlog where I document the process and the progress of creating that graphic novel, on top of being a full-time art director, a full-time husband, and a full-time father. So if you're at all curious and you're interested in what you've seen for the process and you have more questions, or you're kind of curious about further videos of the process, feel free to subscribe, comment, like, or share my videos, and you'll see in my video feed there are a lot of videos where I get far more in depth about this process of creating these pages. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. I've tried something a little different this time. A lot of my videos are a lot longer, some of my videos are a lot shorter, but I always like to occasionally have a video that shows the entirety of the creation of a comic book page. Now, when you're watching this, also keep in mind this is weeks worth of work. It's a lot of work doing comics, especially the style of comics that I'm working on. And so just the encouragement, the comments, the feedback, and the fact that people are willing to subscribe to these videos really speaks volumes to me while I'm working on this long project. I hope to see you guys next week, and that should pretty much wrap it up. Let me know what you think of the new format and what you think of this video, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.